We were just talking Elon Musk.
Mm.
I said he was a twat, didn't I? Can I say that now
remember.
we're recording?
Yeah, I think twat is it. Is that hard with the swearing? Is it the same as the F-bomb? Or
No, twat.
we're British. For us,
We'll
it's like.
find out.
I mean, we greet each other with like cunt. We come up to the street. Hello, cunt. Hello, cunt. How are you?
The term cunt is a term of endearment.
Yes.
You cunt.
Yes.
Like your best mates. My partner, she's American, and when she first came over to America and she heard like the C word drop, like she was beside herself with shock, but then now she uses it all the time. She's proper British now after being here for many years.
I don't even take it as an offense at this point. It really is like if you meet a mate, you go like, hey, C word, you speak about your day. So,
Yeah. I'm just worried about YouTube now. Oh, because like the first couple of minutes on YouTube, if you say anything offensive, like the C word, they tend to censor you, don't they?
So, dear editors, regulators, what are they? Gatekeepers at YouTube? We didn't mean it badly. It really is. It really is the same as saying hello in America.
It's a friendly term. It's a friendly term. Yeah.
So the T word essentially is as well.
Yeah, it's a gentler C, isn't it? Twat means the same thing, but that is an offensive. That is an offensive term. If you call somebody a twat, that is offensive. It's more offensive calling somebody a twat than it is the C word. Figure that one out, guys.
And that was your 5-minute introduction into. Yeah, that was your 5-minute introduction into British swearing with Ian and Joel.
Yeah. Strange place.
But we were speaking about Elon before we hit record.
Yeah, hence why the topic of twat came up. What's he doing? What's he actually doing? This guy. He's just a big, big kid, isn't he? Just mucking about, making people upset and stirring the pot.
That's the part where I go like, okay, he kind of does whatever he wants. So you kind of could go, that's epic. If you're at that point and stage in life where you can go like, well, F all, I'm just going to do whatever the F I want. But the whole Dogecoin thing, what first came to my mind, so first of all, it doesn't always work on my end. Sometimes it shows up, sometimes it doesn't.
Just checking it on mine now. Yeah, God, it's there on mine.
And I don't get the point. I would have found it somewhat funny on the 1st of April. Like, April Fools, right?
Yeah.
It's like the 4th of
That's
April.
True. Right? What annoys me, actually, about this whole Dogecoin logo situation on Twitter is the price pumped up, didn't it? I don't know what the original price was or what it is now. I had a brief look earlier and I just saw that the massive leg up. So what percentage it went up, I'm not entirely sure. But obviously, he just needs to utter the words Dogecoin and it has an impact on Dogecoin's price, right? And I'm just thinking, mate, how many people are you actually wrecking right now? Like, people see this, like a lot of people got into crypto. I got into Bitcoin through the whole crypto space, making gains and all that sort of stuff, thinking I can make a bit of money. And if people are in that stage of their journey and they see that and they're pumping money into it, and then all of a sudden it's going to get rug pulled and tank again, he's just wrecking a load of people. It's like he's wanted like a bit of a tease out there, but actually people are going to get wrecked on the back of it, and that's what frustrates me.
Yeah, I think I'm a bit torn in between because I think, well, if you're a grown-up, do your own research if you invest into these kind of things. And if you invest into something that has a dog as its mascot and like the only reason it exists is to be an internet community, essentially, I think you can expect that like you're not in it to make gains. You're in it just to have fun, essentially, because that's what it is with these meme coins, right? So that's one part on my end where I go like, everyone's grown up. We should all be able to make our own decisions. But then on the other hand, I see potentially, teenagers getting in and sort of seeing like, Elon is pumping it up again. And it's a weird time. Like, he promised a lot of stuff when he took over Twitter, which he delivered on. And I know some people are very much offended because Elon used to be their tech bro, and now he's not anymore. But he promised to make the source code available, make it open source. I think gradually they're going to show what's under the hood. They sort of are telling how they are doing things by far better than the previous owners. And that includes a Bitcoiner, which in my opinion doesn't get that much of a heat for what he did before, but that's a different topic. But then again, he just brings in that stunt, because I think he's going to have more problems with the SEC now than with, people losing money on these crypto pumps, because now the whole SEC could come in and go like, hang on, you're promoting an unregistered security, that goes against securities law in the States. And I don't know, case X, Y, and Z has these results for you, or whatever's going to happen. So I'm just sitting there like, you're doing one thing good, and then you're completely effing it up with all of these other things. And that's what just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I think that's where you and me I'm a bit on the different fence here, because I'm like, this guy, he's got multi, like, how much money has he apparently got? What's his net worth? Some stupid figure, isn't it? Like,
he doesn't have it. He doesn't have it. He doesn't have it. He has it on paper. That's the thing. He only has it in Tesla shares, which he never liquidated.
Yeah, I think my point with whole Elon thing and him having as much influence as he has, because of the amount of fiat money he's got and the stuff that he can just pretty much just do whatever the man can just make rockets and just launch them into space. Like, just imagine you were rich enough, Joel, just to do all that sort of stuff. Like the power that you wield, if he gets pissed off or he goes nuts, then, I'm just worried about what the consequences are for everyone else, because he can just do stuff when he fancies it, and it has a massive ripple effect throughout the globe, and then once somebody realizes they've got that amount of influence over everyone, what potential sort of things could they get up to down the line? And that's where I think too much power, centralized power, Elon Musk, it's all two sides of the same coin for me, really. And the fact that he's just mucking about putting a meme coin logo on there, making a fool out of himself, really, and he's just sort of joking around. And he put a tweet out about the fact that he's just coming true to his promise about putting the meme coin logo on Twitter to somebody he tweeted last year or something like that. Do you know what I mean? It's like he's bored and he just wants to just sort of like poke fun at people, and people are going to get wrecked as a result of it. And I know you say, like, it's a bit of fun and a bit, but people are putting money into it. I put out a tweet yesterday and then some guy was saying, oh, can't we just coexist together? And I'm just like, mate, no, because people are brought into the whole idea of it, and they think it's going to change the world. Not everyone in the meme coin and fucking Dogecoin is thinking, oh, it's just for a bit of fun. People are invested in it with their money, and I don't know. I'm sick of the likes of Elon Musk, really.
Are you sick as well from like? That's where I'm not calling you out for hypocrisy. That's where I call out the whole mainstream media thing for hypocrisy, because everyone is so annoyed at Elon.
Mate, if you think it's some hypocrisy to be called out, just to call it out. That's cool. I'm fine. I can take it. I've got thick skin.
I'll see you tomorrow, possibly. May I get punched in the face? We'll see then. So if I have a bloody nose, that's Ian's fault. No, but I mean, what I go like, I get what people are saying, but like, where was the outrage when like Jeff Bezos bought the Washington Post? Steve Jobs' ex-wife owns The Atlantic. Reid Hoffman, the LinkedIn guy, I think also owns, what is it now? It's not Time. It's, maybe it is Time. Some form of big influential magazine. And I go like, yes, we should hold these people accountable. But at that point, like, shouldn't we hold all of them accountable? And that's what's missing for me. Cause now Elon sort of is the scapegoat. But I mentioned it before, like Jack Dorsey, he used to run Twitter. Okay, he's a Bitcoiner, but if you've actually read stuff that's been released, like what's been going on behind the scenes with Twitter and stuff, with like the FBI, the CIA, to which I wasn't super surprised. Like I kind of expected that three-letter agencies work
Right.
with these platforms, but apparently a lot of people weren't. And I sort of go, well, where's the outcry there? Because Jack's now on Nostr sort of bitching about stuff. And I go, okay, good that he acknowledges it. But like, mate, you've been part of the problem as well. And you profited from it as well, right? So that's where I go, is it hypocrisy? Well, is it hypocrisy? That's a good question. We need to put everyone in the same pot, I guess. But it shows the dangers of like having central authorities in control and not the whole community behind it to be able to do something. Because I think most Twitter users would have disagreed to have that ugly. Damn it! I have the F word.
The thing is, though, right? I'm thinking about it from this perspective, so you might have to bear with me a sec. Like, I like so many other people that have discovered and stayed in the Bitcoin space and believe in what Bitcoin is on a fundamental level. And that was a journey, right? And some people's journey into it is longer than others and more complicated than others. But if I'm early on in my journey and I see the Dogecoin being pumped by Elon Musk, for me, it's only going to distract away from the truth, and the truth being Bitcoin. It's going to complicate the whole thing for somebody on their journey. And I'm just wondering how many people are going to be washed out or distracted by this, that it's going to have some kind of dent and impact in the adoption of Bitcoin or its fundamental core principles being understood by those people.
I mean,
so
100%.
That's the kind of angle I'm coming out.
It's market manipulation, market manipulations, just as much as it's going on when, like, you know, the other big billionaires, like, buy and dump all of the, I don't know, stocks from companies they own. So I think we should hold people accountable there. But I think, honestly, to me, it doesn't stop there. Because, okay, let's say tomorrow...
It's just one example.
Exactly. Let's say tomorrow the SEC sends out a letter to Elon saying, like, oh, you should have not done this. I just read before I entered the room, apparently it's quite hard for the SEC to get in because Twitter is now a privately owned company again, with him having bought the shareholders out, and they have not registered as like a payment provider or, you know, something in the financial lane. So it would be quite hard for them to like go up there into San Francisco tomorrow and like get a cease and desist or whatever. But surely I'm thinking, if you solve the problem that they don't do this bullshit ever again, what is the logical next step? To me, it is actually defining what like the boundaries are, because this maybe leads into like the second thing with Elizabeth Warren, and her whole anti-Bitcoin, anti-crypto stand, wherever you're coming from. Because a lot of this stuff is happening because people who should put the rules in place, and I'm talking about regulators, they just sit there and go like, oh yeah, this is bad, but what should we do about it? And you sort of go like, well, you're in charge. How about you lead the way and show these companies what's doable and what's not, right? So I think this whole thing will spiral into like the next big government, highly controlled whatever, if it's a takedown, choke point, regulation, but then sort of nothing will come out of this again. And it's just that ever-going spiral where you go, well, it doesn't really change at the end of the day. The whole thing will still be ticking, functioning the same way after that. It's just someone will pay a fine and they'll move on.
I just still think he's a twat.
Yeah, he is. He's a weirdo. I think twat. I would call him a weirdo because he's weird.
Yeah, he's an oddball.
But to be honest, look at that top 10 Forbes richest people on Earth list. All of them are so weird. Like Warren Buffett, he gets praised for being, you know, he's being so humble. The guy's a weirdo. Bill Gates, same thing.
Yeah.
Like the guy who now, I think the richest guy is now the Louis Vuitton chef or whatever. He's also a weirdo. So he's also a weirdo. I have to cut that.
What's going on?
It's weird, isn't it? All of them somehow, it's like they've been corrupted by something. And we don't know what. Yeah.
Lizard juice. I don't know.
That will definitely get taken down by YouTube. But
Yeah. Where'd that tinfoil hat go? I can't remember where it went.
you threw it away. Do you think, I'm interested, a lot of Bitcoiners sort of did the typical Bitcoin thing on Bitcoin Twitter and on Nostr and went, oh, this will breed new Bitcoiners. And I sort of read it and I go, does it? Because if FTX fails, if one of these centralized...
Which one?
Just the
You're talking
Dogecoin
about
thing.
Elizabeth Warren? Oh, the Dogecoin thing.
Like, people will buy
if potentially
it and get wrecked.
Yeah, I mean, potentially, look, if anything, people that didn't really know what a cryptocurrency was, it might perk their ears up and spark a bit of curiosity about what's this Dogecoin thing, and it might cause them to look into it. Yeah, so that's possible. But a lot of people just see a little dog icon on the top. They don't think twice about it, I think, apart from the people that are in the know, like the Bitcoiners, and we're making it a point of discussion. You see it all over Bitcoin Twitter. People are upset about it. One of those people being, I suppose, me. You less so because of the reasons you put in there. But I guess, I don't know, I guess for me, it's my protectiveness over Bitcoin. And sometimes I know that protectiveness over Bitcoin can sort of shadow my full perception of things. So I need to sort of like understand that and know that. And, you've got a point in what you say as well. I think it's, at the end of the day, does it really matter? Probably not. Is it going to make a massive impact? Probably not. But, saying that, Elon, he's got however many Dogecoins. He's had a good payday today and yesterday.
Oh, definitely.
And he doesn't really deserve to have any more money. He's got enough, right? Is that too sort of socialist of me? I don't know.
I mean, I don't know. If we go by free market principle, whoever works hardest should earn more. I think that's a sort of the rule, but like, did you work hard for the pump? Yeah. That's the other thing. And my point was...
No, he just said, I'll change the icon.
Yeah. I mean, he probably didn't do anything. He just sent a Slack message, whatever. But my point is, when FTX failed, I personally also got a lot of messages from people who are in crypto, and they went, I get it, what you meant now, not your keys, not your coins. We shouldn't trust these third parties. This now is probably one of those events where the price will pump. People who still held Doge now, they'll probably made a nice payday yesterday or today as well. But people who now get in again, they will drop and they will sort of leave the space. But that just that price drop, I don't think is enough to have them convert into Bitcoin. And sort of go like, oh, this is different than Doge, because they kind of go like, oh shit, I messed up again, or something like this. So I don't see it immediately having an impact, but I would most definitely say if it continues to happen, and let's say they get in at Doge now, they maybe make some winnings, now they keep staying in there, it will drop down again, they'll lose some money, but they'll still be part of that, because community and crypto thing. And then another pump will come in the future, or maybe a bull market, and then the same thing will repeat itself. I think they're just in the very early beginnings of eventually realizing why Bitcoin to an extent is different. Like, we also have pump and dump phases in Bitcoin as well. Don't get me wrong. The price has been falling, and now it's recovering a bit as well. But I think it's the first initial step for them to get into that landscape. But I don't think it has sparked a lot of Bitcoiners yesterday. Like, no one is gonna open Twitter, look at the Dogecoin, and suddenly go like, "Oh, Bitcoin is the answer." I think that's a bit an overreach by a lot of the Bitcoin Twitter people. I just can't see it any other way.
I think I'm in agreement with you on that.
But I think
I've got a question for you. Moving away from that, unless you want to make one point.
No, I wanted to move to Miss Warren.
Yeah, well, this is the question. Do you think the US government understands Bitcoin? And the reason why I ask that is because, one, Elizabeth Warren and her nonsense that she spouted during that interview about Bitcoin, and two, the US government are set to sell the Bitcoin that they seized as a result of the Silk Road thing. So, Elizabeth Warren and what she articulated about Bitcoin tells me that she actually doesn't know F all about Bitcoin. And B, why would you sell the most valuable asset that's ever existed? Whether it's been seized or otherwise, why, if you've got it, would you ever sell it? on that large volume and just sort of clear out your Bitcoin holdings in that way. So my question is, do you think the US government understands it?
I think the decision makers in the US government, they do understand it, but I think they are, to a certain extent, they're victim of their own system. And what I mean by this is they probably have laws in place that if a certain asset has been a product out of a seizure from, I don't know, Silk Road in this example, or just one of those criminal organizations, maybe they have to give it back or sell it at some point. I'm not a lawyer or anything, but I could imagine this. But the people representing government, like Elizabeth Warren, and this goes much further, Lindsey Graham, who else did I see on American TV where I had a laugh? One Democrat, I can't remember his name, he's out of Pennsylvania.
It is like a comedy show.
They all went, with the TikTok bill that they put out, which they extended massively to even forbid stuff like VPNs.
Did you hear that? Oh.
Yeah. It's incredible, really, if you read it. And it could potentially harm cryptology as well, with cryptography, as well, which would end up being a problem for Bitcoin and the crypto field. I think these people, although they represent government, they have no clue. Because if you look at the Elizabeth Warren interview, if you actually ask these people, it's sort of like the clip. Do you remember the clip from last summer or autumn when someone asked King Charles, "What do you think of
oh yeah,
of Bitcoin?" And he went like,
Bitcoin,
not blockchain, or whatever it was.
Yeah, or fascinating or something. Or like, I don't know. He's spouting out some sort of PR nonsense to answer, but not answer. Yeah,
something he read in the papers probably once, or someone read it to him, and then he thought it would be a good point to make that statement to sort of appear normal after having inherited I don't know how many trillions of dollars.
Yeah.
So it's sort of that thing. I think
King Charles, eh?
I think people.
Why do we have a monarchy? What's going on?
That's a whole different.
We've got this old guy living in the massive, palace.
Houses.
Anyway, we don't. And we're paying. He's like a living porter.
I think whether it be the chance by like Elizabeth Warren, whether it be that TikTok ban. It just shows people representing the government, and these are politicians and officials, monarchs, whatever. They don't have a clue what everyday life is like. But I do believe...
So out of touch.
But I do believe people who are responsible for... at the end of the day, the people who sold the Bitcoin, that's not Elizabeth Warren. That's someone in the back office... probably hasn't seen the daylight for 5 days now, being stuck in a cubicle. I think they potentially get Bitcoin and stuff very well. It's just they're sort of trapped in their own world that they're not allowed to nurture that environment. I don't know how to tell it really. I just know it from people working at the ECB, for example. They all do get Bitcoin, but they still have to collect a paycheck at the end of the day by the ECB. So I think it's sort of that weird thing where they get it, but they just do whatever they've been told, and don't give a F about it. So yeah, it's a weird thing.
They're a cog in the machine, and the machine's got to function in a certain way. It's got to be oiled in this way. It's got to function that way. This rule has to be followed this way. And then, the system just perpetuates in, everyone's got their own little part to play and their own little corner of government to sort of spin. And it's just sort of relies on all those people to do the right thing at the right time in order for it to function, right? Let me play that clip, shall we, of Elizabeth Warren. Let me share a screen. I've got it handy, I think. So, there we are. Okay. You can see that, yeah?
Yes.
With Bitcoin, there's no thing that backs it up. And that's what makes it different. It's just belief. You and I assess, You assess the value is going to go down. I assess it's going to go up, and therefore I buy.
So it's more like this artwork.
No, because at the end of the day, I can hang that thing on my wall, and I can enjoy it,
You
or
could
I
sell
can
it.
throw darts at it.
You could sell it for money.
Sure, you can. I mean, there are features about it, but it's not the same. And look, one of the things we have to remember about there are a lot of things that come within this crypto world. So, for example, we could be talking about, instead of Bitcoin, we could be talking about digital currency. Now, that's something very different.
I think that's different too. I buy that. I accept that.
That's right, because that's a government-backed electronic transfer. And it can be denominated in dollars. It could be denominated in euros. It could be denominated in some new language that's made up. But that has something that backs it up. It has a government that says, if at the end of the day, there's a run on this stuff, everybody wants theirs out, the United States government promises there will be something to back it up. And that's what banks are about. There'll be somebody there to back it up. But with Bitcoin, that's not the case. And then, of course, can we do one with?
Yeah. So what do you say about that then, Joel?
What does it say above the Illuminati
Is
sign?
Bitcoin backed by anything?
That's a whole...
Yeah.
Let me finish my Illuminati sign thing. That episode is definitely going to get flagged on YouTube. If you have a $1 bill, or I think any dollar bill, you have that Illuminati pyramid thing with the eye in the middle. And then above it, it says, "In God we trust." And that is the legitimation of government in the USA. So we trust in something where there is no proof. Like, I don't know how many years ago someone said there is a God, then the whole thing around religion existed and was brought into life. So we trust in that, and we trust the central bank they tell us, yes, this is backed as 1 by 1, or I can't even say it is backed. You have our most trust and endearment that this will work out. This is enough for people to go, oh yeah, I'll take this over Bitcoin. Because what Bitcoin is, in my opinion, it is backed by proof of work. It's backed by basic math. You have to put in a certain amount of input to get a certain amount of output.
Would you say it's backed by energy?
It is tough, because the Bitcoin mining industry, yes, is definitely backed by energy. There's no question about it. But if I buy Bitcoin at a Bitcoin on-ramp, I then transfer it into my wallet, and I pay for that for my coffee at a coffee shop who accepts Lightning, that Bitcoin in the mining process has been backed by energy, but now it's just been backed by both parties accepting it as a currency. So I think it's very hard to define currency backing, because we've not had it for 50 plus years. The gold standard is off in the US. It's been off way longer than that in Britain. So it's such a stupid mistake to say, trust the government after all the F-ups the past couple of decades. Like, we started countless wars over basically nothing, to then trust them with money, and that being superior to Bitcoin, and saying all of that after bailing out banks for the past 2 weeks and just expanding the balance sheet of their central bank by like $300 billion out of nothing. If that is enough to trust the system, you can call me crazy.
Yeah. And I find it like so ridiculous that even in this day and age, like, she's just spouting a blatant lie that is easily, found out, by saying that their currency, the fiat currency, is backed. It most certainly is not, right?
No.
How much money have they printed, like, just in the last year? Like, I don't know, there was a statistic I heard recently, and I don't want to mess it up, but it was basically saying, like, in the last 3 years, like, most of the money that's ever printed was printed in the last 3 years.
I think it depends which country you look at. But it's like between 40 and the highest I read was 75% of all money in circulation has been printed in these 3 years. Again, depending where you're coming from. where you're living. But what I find even more ridiculous is the digital currency thing. Bitcoin is a currency. I can pay with it. I get paid in Bitcoin by clients. Therefore, it is a currency because for my services that I offer, I get exchanged with Bitcoin. That's the definition of a currency. Just because they don't accept it doesn't mean that it doesn't have to be an official currency, because it in fact isn't an officially approved currency. And therefore, I believe you should pay tax on it. That gets into another discussion. But from a standpoint speaking, what is a currency? I can pay with Bitcoin for stuff, just as much as I can pay with stuff with dollars. And yeah, it's hard to fathom that you make these statements, but I think she truly shows that she has no understanding of how these things work. And Ian, if we spoke about privilege before, Elizabeth Warren, who has been backed by a lot of banks in her political career, is worth $267 million, working on a 285 grand salary per year for the government for saying stuff like this. If anyone has financial privilege, I think it most definitely is her.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, I don't know what her net worth is. So I'm going to have to trust you on that amount, but it's just sickening that somebody who apparently is fighting for the middle class American with such wealth, and we spoke about hypocrisy earlier. That is, in my mind, what hypocrisy is. So the system is set up against you, and like the whole seizure of these bitcoins, or seizure of this, 41,000 Bitcoin, 41 plus thousand Bitcoin. How the government can just seize the things from people. There's an argument or a moral discussion and argument to be had about the way that those Bitcoin were obtained in the first place with the whole Silk Road thing. And partly, I don't know if you saw my tweet yesterday about drugs, Joel, about whether recreational drugs, what recreational drugs should be legalized under a Bitcoin standard. And that question was partly motivated by this US government thing and their holdings of this seized Bitcoin, because it got me thinking, like, the government have made laws and created criminal offences based on what they deem to be criminal offences. And, alcohol is a drug, it's legal. Nicotine
Cigarettes
is a drug, it's legal. So, what's stopping them? I know a lot of parts of America have legalized cannabis over the last few years. But where I live in London, it's still illegal. But I can jump on a plane, I can go to Amsterdam and sit in a coffee shop and stuff. And, it raises questions about what drugs are acceptable and what drugs could people use. And, the Silk Road thing, people have been buying cannabis on Silk Road and using Bitcoin because in their country they can't smoke it. And no doubt there's been some transactions in Bitcoin to try and get hold of cannabis. And it raises a whole moral question, really, in my mind. And that's what set that question off for me.
And, I would even go further than that, because this has been on my mind for a while now. If like one of these government official agencies sues someone, or there is a fine to be paid, like by the SEC, for example, you have to pay the SEC 200 million for breach of whatever securities law. Where does that money go to? Shouldn't you reimburse previous victims from scams, possible seizures and stuff? And also with the whole Silk Road thing, technically they would have the addresses of all of these Bitcoins. Instead of selling them, why don't they return them? So these are all these things. Same to be said with drugs. Like if they seize a drug operation and everyone can be on the front with drugs, guns, I think this sort of goes all into the same bracket to me. If they seize it and they sort of go, now this is our property, temporarily until we have solved the case or whatever. And then they get to that point where they either sell it or release it. If they want to be so moral, shouldn't they destroy the drugs, destroy the weapons, not support any of these illegal activities anymore? Because surely by selling them again, and I'm sure they sell the drugs or they do whatever they have with the drugs in containment, isn't that, again, a bit hypocritical of them to say, it's bad if you do it, but if we then possess it and we sell it, bear in mind tax-free if they sell it. If we sell Bitcoin, we have to pay tax. If they do it, they don't have to pay anything. It is a double standard there. And it goes in line, I think, with my previous stand with like Elon. We have gotten to that point, and I've been through so many of these things. This is maybe the difference between me and you, Ian. I've been through so many of these shitcoin phases, stuff that like a billionaire pitches it and people fall victim to it, that I just don't care at this point anymore. But it is the same hypocritical context as the government seizing drugs and then possibly auctioning the drugs away for pharmaceutical reasons. I'm just making it up on the fly. I don't know if that's happening. Or if they're selling the Bitcoin, because they sort of take it from one end by means with law, and then they just sell it without any means to that law. And that's what doesn't make sense in the back of my head. But maybe I'm just not aware enough of what's going on if like the government takes drugs and seizes them, or the Bitcoins, what happens afterwards. It's rules for them, not for us. And it sort of feels that way, and it has been feeling that way for a very long time.
Yeah. Thanks for your point about the whole Elon Musk and thing, because you have been in space a lot longer than I have. And you have seen this cycle or this type of behavior again and again, and it hasn't had much of an impact. So I'll take your experience and I'll put it in my brain for further understanding of how these things work. But I guess the theme of today on our discussion is basically hypocrisy of the system and those in power, or those that apparently wield some authority or power in the system that we exist within. Like, I think I put a tweet out, a response to this whole thing about the government seizure of this drug money, and I put out a tweet about, in the UK there's been a law that's been, I think it's the Proceeds of Crime Act 2002, this thing came out called the Proceeds of Crime Act, and it enables police officers or anyone acting on behalf of the system, if you like, where it empowers these people with these powers to make seizures of property and or cash if they feel that property and or cash is as a result of proceeds of crime. And I think the limit is set at £1,000 in the UK. So if you're stopped and searched in the street by a police officer and you've got £1,000 in your wallet plus, they will most certainly ask you, what is it that why do you have this amount of money on you? They'll ask you to justify it. And if not satisfied with that answer, they're more within their rights just to seize that £1,000 and make it subject to some kind of inquiry, where your bank account is going to be looked into and all that kind of stuff. So the system, I mean, and the £1,000, right, in 2002 was worth a lot more than it is in 2023 because of inflation.
So they did us a favour.
Power of £1,000. but hold on, like if you're in 2002, you got £1,000 in your wallet, but now in 2023 you've got £1,000 in your wallet, like you're more likely to have £1,000 in your wallet in 2023 than you were in 2002 in the first place. And that rate hasn't increased, so that's remained like standard. So over time, the likelihood of you being stopped with £1,000 in your wallet is increasing in my mind. Or am I just being like silly here? So like the likelihood of things being seized under the Proceeds of Crime Act is increasing over time because of inflation. But with the whole US government thing and them selling this Bitcoin, it's like, hold on, people have made money on the back of selling drugs. Whether that's the morally right or wrong, I'll leave that over to everyone listening to this. I've got my stance on it with drugs, because I feel like you know, I can choose what to put in my body whenever I want without anyone telling me that I shouldn't. You know, I like to think I've got my head screwed on right. You know, I've got the autonomy to buy something that is going to be mind altering or is going to be a stimulant or depressant. Like, surely it's my choice to put whatever I want in my body. But there are lots of caveats and things relating to that about my mental health and stability and my propensity for addiction and all that kind of stuff needs to be all worked out. But at the end of the day, if a government has seized all this money or Bitcoin and they're selling it or paying for their own stuff, what makes them any better than the person making that profit for those drugs in the first place? Basically, they've been caught out and you're like, okay, you can't have that profits, but we'll take it instead and just use it for our stuff. Like that is hypocrisy, right? In my mind anyway.
Yes, and I also look at it from another angle. Like, if I'm lying in the hospital and I need morphium because, I don't know, I've broken every bone in my body, that's okay. They give me the heart,
morphine,
and I mean morphium. I was thinking of a movie. Sorry, I meant morphine. That's a hardcore drug. That's a very hardcore drug, a very hardcore painkiller, essentially. But if I, for whatever reason, I don't know, want to do shrooms, and full disclosure, I've never done shrooms, so I don't know what it feels like. But I'm just bringing up one drug which is illegal under a certain context, and the other one isn't.
Yeah.
Just because I've broken a few bones, isn't that weird in itself as well? So like, this is the point, I think.
Yeah.
And this goes to like the government buying and holding Bitcoin. Cause like the Bitcoin they got in 2013, the equivalent back then was maybe, let's say, what was it then? $200 late. That is 100K, add 2 zeros. That is, 1 million, 10 million. And today, Bitcoin is worth a lot more. So even if they sell it per Bitcoin at a different price than today's market price, they're still up way on that investment. So that goes into your point that there is no like legal way for them to justify it. And they don't even put it to good use. Like, if they sell that Bitcoin and they say like, look, we've got this hole because we've handed out too many COVID loans, for example, and we're trying to make up for it, at least you could say, okay, I'm trying to make an effort, right? But that's not happening.
pay back the global debt in some way in these things, right? Contribute to paying off the debt in some way. I know you'll never be able to do it, but the principle of it, you know?
But it's not happening.
No, it's not. It's not. It's not. The system's broken, Joel, right?
It definitely
is. Can Bitcoin fix this?
I think Bitcoin... We've spoken about this a few times. Bitcoin can't fix greed and humans, but it can definitely be a better starting point than what we currently have. I think that's for sure. Whether we then succeed as a human race, that's a different ballgame. But at least we have a better resource to do it.
Yeah, Bitcoin is our best hope anyway, no matter which way you look at it. On that note, shall we finish here, Joel?
Yeah, I just wanted to leave that if you need help, like if you're uncertain, if you're one of these Doge holders and for whatever reason you see this video, truly think about what implementation a decentralized token can have if a billionaire guy can just tweet something out or do something and the price pumps. Surely there is a correlation there, and maybe look into something different that has more of a natural habitat and is truly decentralized.
Yeah, join us down the rabbit hole. You'll be surprised.